And with your permission, we are going straight into the program.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, good evening and welcome all to Pathrika's Clubhouse program for the day, Chinese Lovers in India. To speak to us on this subject, joining us as our honored guest today is Mr. Sri Iyer. Sri Iyer obviously doesn't need any introduction to the social media personalities, social media savvy persons in particular, but it is my honor to introduce him. He is the founder of Guru, a news media in the social media spectrum aimed at providing an accurate reporting and analysis of the events concerning Bharat and the world, focusing mainly on three aspects: politics, business, and culture. In a polluted environment filled with pliable journalists, gurus have carved a ruthlessly honest path, with Mr. Sri Iyer leading the charge. And of course, Mr. Sri Iyer is a uh, person with diversified intellectual capacity. That is, he is an inventor, an out-of-the-box thinker, as he is famously called over the social media, with nearly 37 to 40 patents in the areas of hardware and software, encryption, and systems in his name. And also, is a very famous author with books like Who Painted My Money White, C Company, Who Painted My State Purple, which deals with the rot of corruption and political manipulation that has been plaguing the modern day society in Bharat and across the world. It's my genuine pleasure and honor to welcome Mr. Sri Iyer to Pathrika's Clubhouse tonight. And now coming to the topic of for the evening. A pathetic bully and unfortunately our great nation's neighbor. China is important in our political spectrum, that is Bharat's political spectrum, has always been mainly because of China's illicit lovers inside our nation. That is the subject we explore today. I humbly invite Mr. Sri Iyer to speak to us about this subject, Chinese lovers in India. After his presentation on the topic, we will move to the moderator's question and finally questions from the audience as usual, thus concluding the 2 hours open forum. So join me in welcoming Mr. Sri Iyer to the dais. Iyer, sir, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. It's an honor and pleasure to be on Pathrika Clubhouse. The last time we had a hangout, it was about my book, Who Painted My Money White. Just a quick update. I have a book 3 in that series. The first one was Who Painted My Money White, which dealt with fake currency. And the second book was Who Painted My Lust Red, that dealt with politics, cricket, and Bollywood. And the third one is called Who Painted My Future Bright. And this has to do with, again, the same group of characters that were there in the first two books. They come on, and I take a small peek into the future of India and see how it's going to shape itself. And I urge you all, if you like the first two books, you will like this one too, because you will see that whatever I'm predicting is more or less coming true. And I wrote this book about 8, 9 months ago, but I could not publish it because of COVID being so high. I was not sure if people really could part with their wallets to buy another book of mine. So I just waited. But then I started realizing that, what I'm predicting is coming out true. Maybe what I've left in the book to be predicted will also come out true. No, so only history will judge us. At the same time, it's a very breezy read, just as the other ones. I'm very conscious about the time of the viewers, readers. So I try to keep it as crisp as possible. So I hope you all
I
can
yes, sir,
support.
before you start on the topics, this book is also available like your other books on Amazon as ebooks and paperback version, right?
Yes,
Correct?
ebook is already out. Paperback will be coming out in a couple of weeks' time. Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you, sir. And now on to the topic.
Thank you. So, India has had its flirtation with communism right from the time, the first prime minister took office. Jawaharlal Nehru was, he went to Oxford at a time, I don't know if it's Oxford or Cambridge, doesn't matter, when communism was on the rise. And it was fashionable to think that, socialism and communism is the way to go for the world. And this dreamy-eyed guy becomes the prime minister, and somehow he gets fooled into appointing somebody who's a known communist Philly, V.K. Krishna Menon, as his defense minister. And people were saying that this was actually a sort of a political coup that was attempted by China while they were on the borders in India in 1962. India got a really bad bloody nose at that time, and that was all very badly managed. Long story short, for some reason, India has this fascination that whatever China does is right. Not all, but a small but vocal, powerful minority. I have to say this thing underlined. Vocal, powerful minority thinks that this what China does is right, and that India should follow that path. If you remember, in 1962, the two communist parties actually supported China and would not support India. I mean, this is really sad. I mean, as much as we try to say that some religions put their religion above the nationality, here you have some ideologies also putting their ideology above of their nationality. So it's very sad when you see things like that. Personally, I love Chinese food, especially the one that is there, served in India. The Chinese with, masala of India added. Uh, I love that food. But beyond that, there are some things to like about China. Their maniacal execution. Once they set their mind to it, they don't stop until they do it in record time. But what has been playing out now is this China's desire for global domination, that they think that they are not getting the respect they deserve from the rest of the world, and therefore they are starting to flex their muscles. In fact, my book, Who Painted My State Purple, is a fictional book again. But if you read that book and if you followed what transpired during the 2020 elections that took place in United States, you will see the hand of China there too. It was so meticulously done. I'm telling you, it was so meticulously done that despite many charges being leveled, none of them could be proved because somebody has covered their tracks very well. Now let's come back to India and Indians who love Chinese. Interestingly, people of Indian origin outside of India also love Chinese. I'll give you I live in Silicon Valley, which is a hyper competitive place. Every child thinks that they need to go to Harvard or MIT. Nothing less would suffice. And there are 400,000, 500,000 of them every year graduating from high schools. Clearly, only 5 or 10 make it, but everybody has that mindset that they want to do this. And the joke in dinner parties among Indian Americans is what we should do is just follow our Chinese neighbor. Whatever they are doing, we just do it, and that will give us the insight, like the shortcut to success. Now, the maniacal execution that I talked about, it shows itself even when Chinese are bringing up their children. I mean, the moment the child is born, they plan their life. This is what this kid, girl or boy will do at this age. This is the thing. They'll take their first SAT test when they are at this age. They will go to this school, and so on and so forth. Everything is planned, programmed. In fact, sometimes they even program who they will marry. And Indians kind of we are a little bit late in the sense that Chinese came to US ahead of Indians did, and we tend to ape it. Now I tell you, you go to any city in India where there is IT, right? Lot of IT, and MNCs are there, and people from India who worked abroad have come back. You see their children, their discussions is the same thing. Now, why is it that we like Chinese? There are some things to like about. For example, we share the same Sanatani culture, even though the Chinese Communist Party would not like to accept that there is religion in China. It is believed that close to 500 to 600 million Chinese are actually Buddhists. We also need to keep in mind that about only 200,000 are middle class or lower middle class. The rest are extremely poor, and people don't really listen to them or take cognizance of them or see what exactly they want. If you talk to the average Chinese, they say that India is a land of heaven, India is a land of Buddha. That's where I'd like to go to die. I mean, that is the kind of reverence they attach. Unfortunately, today the world is looking at China through the lenses of its regime, which is a rogue regime, Chinese Communist Party. And that has really given a bad name for Chinese. But let's take a look at what happens to people who are trying to be lovers of Chinese culture and ideology in India. So I told you about culture thus far. Now let's take a look at ideology. In terms of ideology, today the Communist Party of India is more or less gone. Only the Communist Party of India Marxist is there. That too, in your state of Kerala, it is still reigning supreme. And perhaps it hopes to come back in some other states. I don't know how successful it will be. Certainly, the results in the recently concluded West Bengal elections showed that they are one step away from death. That's how it looked like, unless there was some, voting jugaad that took place, and they said well, tactically they'll vote for TMC to keep BJP out. And they should remember that 5 years later, many of their followers may not remember what they did before, and they may continue to vote for TMC, as was witnessed in the case of Aam Aadmi Party in the state assembly elections in Delhi. In order to defeat BJP, Congress committed political suicide in Delhi state, and they let AAP win. And AAP won, I think, 67 seats out of 70 in 2015 or whenever that election was. And the subsequent one, now they have, I think, 60 or 63, something like that. Very high number. Congress can't even get its foot in. So these things have ramifications. However, those who are still clinging on to communist ideology must remember that the China of up to Mao 70s is different from the China of today, although Xi Jinping is trying his best to pull it back towards Mao's ideology. I don't think that is going to be possible. In fact, it's a matter of time before Xi is going to be deposed, in my opinion. Many of you may be watching my video hangouts with Elmer Yuan, a China activist, anti-China activist based in the United States. And we are going to bring some more speakers, and you will start seeing the reality of China. And the reality is not very good. And it's actually being propped up by some vested interest in the United States. And once these vested interests are exposed, it's game over for China. So we'll just wait and see. But let's get back to Communist Party. You take a look at the Communist Party. They say there is no God, but they want to control the Devaswam votes. Why? So because there is money involved. They say that we don't believe in God, but we don't mind our children having their Jano ceremony, Yagnopavita Dharanam. This happened, I think, in the case of Nambudripad, if I'm not wrong. And so there's all these hypocrisies, for the outside world we are something, but inside our house we are something else. And this hypocrisy seems to be perfectly acceptable to the people, because other parties are no better. Maybe BJP will make a difference, but I don't know. I have to reserve my judgment. Every state unit of BJP is slightly different, so we have to find what happens at each state until BJP comes of age. So we have to see how it plays out in Kerala. Certainly, the Tamil Nadu BJP is definitely showing signs of renaissance under the new leadership. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. For certainly, their first test is coming just around the corner. Now, um, the other challenge that communists have, this is the political ideology lovers in India, is they somehow think that China can show them the way, when in fact it was India which showed China the way out. If you go back and look at history, it was India that gave them their religion, their way of life, the Sanatana Dharma. In fact, even the martial arts. That was Bodhivarman, who came from somewhere in the South India. They say that Kanchi, maybe he also may have learned some things in Kerala. He went from here and taught the Chinese what is now called as karate and kung fu and so on and so forth. So we, unfortunately, somewhere we've lost our compass. Maybe it has to do with the fact that India was ruled by somebody external people for over 1,000 years. If you take a look at it, 800 AD is when Muslims started becoming land owners of considerable or big kingdoms, and all the way up until 1947 when the British finally left. And what a mess they left us with. And therefore, India still, even after 75 years, it is still kind of feeling a little inferior, that we don't know anything, that we should look to somebody else for guidance and so on and so forth. And I don't know how many of our audience know this, but it is believed that the leadership in communist parties is not decided by the Communist Party of India, whether it is CPI or CPIM. Rather, the diktat comes from China. Russia has long absolved its hands off of all this, but China continues to say, okay, you shall be the next president of the party. You shall be, or I think it's more like general secretary of the party, and so on and so forth. And I have had some friends tell me 2-3 days before the election that this is the anointed successor, or this is the person who is going to be the president of the party. So to that extent, the CPI and CPIM are dependent on China. It goes without saying that they must be receiving some largesse. We don't know how. Clearly, that is not right, morally not right. Maybe they can say, well, we are ideologically aligned, therefore we are doing it. Because it doesn't stop there. Every party will start saying, Muslim parties will also say, oh yeah, we will get funding from all these countries because we are ideologically aligned with their thought process. So this blurring of ideology and nationality or national identity is something that India needs to really work on. I mean, it doesn't matter what place an Indian born person comes from. It doesn't matter what religion that person professes. It doesn't matter what language that person speaks. The order in which they should be looking at themselves is, I'm a human being first. I am a resident or I'm a citizen of this country, and then I'm something else. I'm Malayalam speaking, I'm Tamil speaking, I'm Telugu speaking, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Christian, I'm a Jew, and so on and so forth. But this order in which you need to look at yourself is still work in progress as far as India is concerned. And every time a leader tries to gently remind India and Indians of this, immediately they brand that person as ultra nationalist. And then there is always a toolkit group sitting outside to amplify all these things. And it is very regrettable that, in universities in the United States, many sociology departments are filled with left lumpens who think nothing of berating their own country. And they know that they are lying through their teeth. And yet they seem to revel in doing this. In fact, I'm also going to be looking at some things that are coming out of Kerala, where they are depicting Itihasa in a wrong way. And unfortunately, the amount of audience provided to them, platform provided to them, is so large that sometimes that is taken as the truth. And the real history people, who they don't seem to have any space. And that's one of the things that Pigurus tries to bring about. We want to say that, look, this is what happened, this is the real history, and we don't look at books. We go back to the sculptures, the carvings, the engravings. This is what is written in this stone. So that's why they call cast in stone, right? That, something that has been written in stone is something that is not going to change. And it's been around for thousands of years. You can date it to find out when it was written. So, long story short, I think India's China lovers, I don't have a problem them loving something about China. For example, if there is some product that came from China that is good, please do it. But just swallowing it whole hog, that everything they do is right and everything India does is wrong, that is plain wrong. We have to be able to apply our mind and say, okay, that the critical thinking aspect is also missing in India, because that is something that needs to develop from a primary school education. Our children are not taught to ask why. If somebody says the ball is going to fall from the first floor to the ground floor, people don't explain why that is. That is because of gravity. Usually what happens is we have this road system, and then in the road system they says, okay, this is what it is, it will fall from there. So children learn things without understanding quite why. So once you ask them the same question with a different set of words, they are just blinking. And that would happen only because they never understood what they were learning in the first place. They were just rote system. So this thing has to change, and I think once that change comes about, you will start seeing the actual intellectual quotient of the country go up. I believe right now India's intellectual quotient is plumbing lows, new lows. Um, if you look at study after study, all engineers, they say that less than 15% are employable. So what happens to the other 85%? And I bet you the same thing is true for other professions also. So India needs to overall improve its quality of learning, because once the quality of learning improves, the quality of education will improve automatically. I've taken about 20 minutes. I think I'm sort of done right now, and I'm just hoping that through this conversation, many of you who are capable of thinking, develop that critical thinking skills. You don't have to take my word for it. Then at least say, okay, this is somebody's viewpoint. Let me see what others have to say about it. Blindly taking something and then going and wasting your vote because you like a person or you like their campaign, that is wrong. So this with that, I think I'll stop now and we can take questions. And sometimes these questions can take long answers. So maybe I can just stop now.
Thank you, Iyer sir. That was a wonderful prologue on the subject. Now, moving on directly to the question.
Hmm.
Let's talk about the intelligentsia of the country. You have been engaged in an ongoing battle with the pseudo intellects of this country for a very long time. So you know your enemies well. That's why I'm
Yes.
starting with that question. So the intelligentsia of this country, right from the period of Jawaharlal Nehru and more so during the reign of Indira Gandhi, it was like handed over in a platter to the communist intelligentsia, and that has hatched the likes of Irfan Habib and Romila Tapas and all. They don't call themselves communists, but the ideology is very clear. How did that happen? Of course, Nehru was a socialist, a champagne socialist, but Indira Gandhi was never a socialist, at least in the forefront. How did this happen? How did our institutions of education, the history, got hijacked?
It's a very good question. So we have to take a quick look back in history. In 1952, there was only one party, Congress. You had to wait up until three elections, I think in 1967, before some real opposition emerged. And so if you take 52 and 57 were more or less easy victories for Congress, but the communists were a presence. Why? Because they were considered the freedom fighters in several states. For example, communists used to be number two in Andhra Pradesh. The Andhra Pradesh I'm talking about is a unified Andhra Pradesh where Telangana and Andhra were merged together to form a single entity. In the Telangana, which was part of the Nizam's kingdom, one of the resistance was communist, because there was a lot of what I would call as zamindarism, where people were being flogged, and that gave rise to communism. In fact, up until 1980s, it used to be quite strong. Like that, you had other places, and I think somewhere Nehru realized, but he was, remember that he was a closet communist, if you ask me. Why else would somebody who knew that India's mindset is capitalist in nature go and embrace the planning approach of China, of Russia at that time? These 5-year plans, first one or the second one, I think the British gave the money to India, because the British owed India money for India having fought their war for them, World War II. And that money, instead of using it in the right way, this man just frittered it away in doing this planning, and he started calling dams as the new temples and things like that. It's not that I'm against dams. I'm just saying that there was a better way in which India had managed its water resources without constructing dams. You look at Kaveri, if you look at, because we are all, I'm assuming many of the audience is from the south. You look at Kaveri. Kaveri has a very gentle slope. right from the beginning all the way to the sea. And you look at the way they conserved water. They had all these reservoirs that you could open or close the dikes to, so that you could store the water at the time of monsoon, and that is how they did it. The British came and realized that decentralizing water would be a problem for them. So what they did was they systematically went about shutting down all these things. So when India became independent, Nehru didn't look at what was the thing before. People believe that even his work, Discovery of India, was written by somebody else. They were both jail mates in, I think, Amroha or someplace like that. And this guy just put his name on it. But I'm not completely writing Nehru down. His dams did help India attain food sufficiency in the 60s. However, there is no alternative thought process that went into, wait a minute, how was India managing with its water resources before all these things happened? Nobody really went and searched and found out what was the thing. The other thing that India did was in a ushering in a lot of land reforms that weren't done properly, in my opinion. I'll give you a simple example. Manoj, you can tell me if everybody has heard the name Purambok land.
Yes, they have. They have.
Okay, you know what Purambok is? Purambok is supposed to be like unused land or something like that today, but that is not how it was. There was a East India collector called Pembroke, Pembrooke. What this guy did was, when he was surveying, he would see village after village after village after village. There will be a piece of land, green, and then nobody would go and build houses there. It would always remain green, and it would not be occupied by any of the villagers. This guy, I don't know what he understood. The reason that was kept that way was that every village had a agreed grazing place. All the cattle, whether it was cows or buffaloes or sheep or lamb, everything would come and graze in this area. This was a commonly accepted place. And since nobody owned it, the British just took it. And they came up with this thing called Purambok land. So India had its decentralization down to a very fine science. Same with even vaccination. Indians were the first people who invented vaccination. I can go on and on. So when this half-baked intellectuals came to power, they didn't realize that there were answers to some of the problems within. They never looked into it themselves. Now, let's take a look at how Indira Gandhi became the prime minister. 1959, Nehru makes her the president of the party. And for the first time in the history of India, there is a non-Congress party that comes to power in a state, and that is the state of Kerala. And they foment trouble and they dismiss that government. And who did all this stuff? Indira Gandhi, because she was the president of the party. Of course, her father was smiling benignly. Why wasn't the Congress? At that time, they were reasonably strong. Why didn't they question these two? Because the seeds of the grandeur of power were sown in Indira Gandhi's head when she saw that just like that she could dismiss a party, a government at the state. And even if today, if you look at the number of state governments dismissed by Indira Gandhi, that's an all-time high. In fact, so she was so shameless politically that she tried to append the elected government of N.T. Ramarao, who came with a two-thirds majority of Andhra Pradesh in 1983 or 84, something like that. It was shameless the way she tried to break him apart. And he had to actually parade all his legislators in front of the president in Delhi, that I have the support of all these people, so that he could preserve it. But the point I'm trying to say is that Indira Gandhi was perhaps one person who, because she had these ambitions to become the prime minister, and people still say that there was some hanky panky that took place during Lal Bahadur Shastri's visit to Russia. Nobody understands, nobody is able to explain why Shastri had to go there. India was having the upper hand, in the conflict with Pakistan, and Pakistan started it. Everybody knew these two. So why did India have to go and negotiate and then come back with everything returned to them? So these things are one of those unanswered questions in history. Let's not even look at why um, Lal Bahadur Shastri, how he died. Let's look at why did he have to even go? He could have just stuck. Because my neighbor in the U.S., his father was in the Indian Army, and he told me stories. They were camped 4 kilometers outside of Lahore. 4 kilometers outside of Lahore. They had grabbed land up until there, and then suddenly their bosses told that no, we're all going back. He said we felt betrayed because it was so problematic. At that time, the political and the nerve center of Pakistan was Lahore, and India had come within 4 kilometers of Lahore, and then they were asked to come back. Anyway, so when Shastri passed and blunder by Kamaraj to put Indira Gandhi as the prime minister, Indira Gandhi knew that they were stronger, better administrators in her own party, and she had to somehow sideline them. And it wasn't so easy in those days. There were many Congress leaders with spine, Morarji Desai, and even many state level leaders. Neelam Sanjeev Reddy and so on and so forth. So what she needed was she needed somebody else to sort of counterbalance this, and that's how she developed friendship of other communists like Mohan Kumara Mangalam or many from West Bengal and so on. So this is how this romance with the Communist Party started for Congress. And I think the communists were very clever. They realized that they can influence the future generations by setting the narrative. And that's how you saw the Romila Thappars of the world getting responsibility for coming up with the NCRT textbooks, which everybody read. I mean, we read about the Mughal dynasty for years, but we never read anything about the Vijayanagar Empire or the Lalitaditya Empire or the Mauryan Empire. Worse, Chandragupta Maurya and Chandragupta Gupta were confused and put as a single kingdom, and that raised to its own set of confusions. The two were 600 years apart. And India's historians didn't even bother to go and check these things. And even today, there is in, I think, Sarnath, there is Ashoka pillar where the inscriptions are in Brahmi, and the language is Sanskrit. You can follow it. Professor Subhash Kak has come on my channel and told me what are all the things that are written there. So what I'm saying is this communist narrative, I'm not so sure that the narrative that they wanted to present was inspired by China, but I'm sure that they had a certain thing in mind that India, this is romanticism with your conqueror. And clearly, even as when I was growing up, I felt that Akbar was the most secular king in the whole world. When now history is coming out that the reason why he did not like his son marrying what's her name, Mumtaz, right? Not Mumtaz.
Anarchally.
What's it? Anarkali, was because he himself wanted to marry her. So, so you have all these things, and none of that got written down properly. Unfortunately, we are stuck with that. Only now this government is beginning to try and change it. But you had the dubious distinction of the education minister at the center saying, I think 2 3 years ago, not one line of education has been changed, and he claimed this as an achievement. Shame on him. Finally, somebody got the sense and threw him out of the ministry. But the new ministry, I think they are still taking baby steps. What has happened is, I have to just step back again to 2004 because this is a first-hand narrative. Sonal Mansingh, she's a member of Rajya Sabha now. I think she was the chairman of Sahitya Academy or Sangeet Natak. I don't know. It was a very big arts council in New Delhi. She was appointed by the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government. And in 2004, when the Congress came back to power, Abdul Kalam was the president, and I think Harkishan Singh Surjit was the minister for culture or whatever, and he sent a list within 2 3 days of the government coming to power that you shall replace this person you shall remove this person, this person, this person, this person, this person. And this list was with the president. And Abdul Kalam, he knew that Sonal Mansingh was a deserved position and that she can work wonders. She was, I think, only 1 or 2 years into the post, and that she shouldn't be sacked. So what the president can do is that they can sit on it for some time and then return it back to the concerned ministry and say, please reconsider. And he's against Sonal Mansingh's name. He said, please reconsider. And the next list comes 2 days later. Again, Sonal Mansingh's name is there. And again, he sits on it for a few weeks and then goes back again and says, please reconsider. Now, the Indian constitution allows the president to object only 3 times. After 3 times, he has to go with what the government recommends. So the third time came, and again, the top name was Sonal Mansingh. And the only thing that he could do is, instead of using the word removed, he he crossed it and said replaced. The reason I'm saying all this is, when the Congress ecosystem comes to power, within a few weeks, they line up all the people they want in all the positions of power. And look at the BJP government now. They still haven't gotten rid of some of the dead wood from the UPA. 2 days ago, I wrote an article where I listed the names of 5 individuals who are in one way or the other connected finance ministry and to Chidambaram. They continue to occupy positions of power because these are the guardians of the wealth that the UPA ministers have gathered. And I don't understand why Mr. Modi can't see through this. He's supposed to be a very good person at finding out the right person for the right slot. Dr. Subramanian Swamy sent a list of 27 people in IAS officers and very high ranks. And this has not been made public, but if you read P Gurus, you can kind of at least get half of those names. That these all people have to be removed. Otherwise, you will not be able to function. And he has not removed any of them. 1 or 2 got removed with a lot of pressure, but they found different ways to come back in. Hasmukh Arya is one example. So what I'm trying to say is, when you are given the keys to the kingdom, you need to act swiftly, mercilessly, and quickly. And this government has missed out on that, which is why you are seeing all these toolkits, this new hijab controversy. Once this is proven and taken out of the way, something else will start. Something else will start. For example, in Pinarayi government, Vijayan's government, now fake currency has gone down, gold smuggling has gone up. What has the government done about it? Pinarayi Vijayan came with a much higher majority in 2019. How is it that somebody who has been caught with his hand in the cookie jar continues to enjoy the power and support? I think in that election there was again strategic voting where the Congress said, you let us win some at the Lok Sabha and we will let you win some at the local thing. I can't explain how within a few months of each other, in the central elections, the Congress led front sweeps, and then subsequently in the state elections, the communist front sweeps. So there is a huge ecosystem, and this ecosystem made sure that they had people in the right places. They have them in the judiciary, they have them in the executive, they have them in the in law and order, they like policemen. Everywhere they have them. So unfortunately, somewhere along the line, all these government officials have lost their compass. They are supposed to do what their job entails them to do. They are not supposed to give any favors to anybody. But that part of the thing has been forgotten and has fallen behind in a long time. Unless the public, the silent majority, starts finding its voice, people don't do what they are supposed to do. These rascals are getting paid for doing their job, and they don't do that. So this is one of the biggest challenges in front of the Modi government. However, I don't find I cannot give it any marks for the way it has handled the Delhi riots or the farmers agitation. All these things could have been nipped in the bud, and somehow they have been very found very wanting. The intellectual depth in the cabinet is awfully shallow. This is my opinion, and they have some really good thinkers, but they are keeping them out. And these and nobody will come out and explain. Somehow the silent majority is still okay with it. Why can't the silent majority say, I want the prime minister to come and give a press conference where he can answer questions? What is this monkey bath? So this kind of stuff, there is not a single survey run by any media saying that it is not enough that the prime minister just addresses one way and goes away. You can't wait for every election to say, I didn't like what you did, therefore I'm voting you out. The world is moving at a much faster pace. So the system, the left leaning, the Chinese loving system is in place. You have to name them and shame them, and you have to. It's like pulling out a nail from your finger. It is that painful. But India needs to undergo that process. Otherwise, 1.4 billion. In fact, today India is more populous than China. China is finding out to its horror that they are not even 1.2 billion now. One child policy does that to you. So India needs to really start doing this thing, and especially people should not get swayed by that 1,000 rupee or one biryani plate or one bottle of beer to go and vote for somebody. I mean, they can take money from everybody. Then you vote who you think is the best person for the country and for the state. So anyway, that's what I think. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. And let me give you a Keralite insight on the Pinarayi Vijayan coming back to power issue. And
Yeah.
I think Guru can investigate it a little more. It would be an
Huh.
interesting point of view, I think. Rather than Congress doing some cross voting,
Hmm.
there has been a consolidation of a certain peaceful community's vote.
Hmm.
During the Lok Sabha election, Rahul Gandhi was here and he was propped up as the one who can fight Modi.
Right.
And of course, in the Kerala state government election, Pinarayi Vijayan had, as done by the old royals, marriage marriages to form alliances. That marriage happened, and the peaceful community was so perked up and consolidated with the assurance that Pinarayi Vijayan is going to fight RSS tooth and nail. I
Hmm.
implore you to look at that angle also in detail because that is
Sure. Sure.
prevalent in our state. I'm talking talking from the perspective of an author. Now, coming back to this intelligentsia that has infested our pseudo intelligentsia that has infested our institution. You cited the example of Srimati Sonal Mansingh. That was very
Yeah.
interesting to me. But and you also emphasized on the need to be ruthless in
Yeah.
dealing with these kind of people. Don't you think that that kind of ruthlessness is also lacking from our right wing intelligentsia or the silent majority? Because the reason I'm saying is that if I remember correctly, in 2005 or so, I don't remember the date exactly, 60 mainstream artists in airports were paraded before Abdul Kalam ji solely demanding the removal of Sonal Mansingh. But that
Hmm.
kind of insistence don't happen from the right wing side. Why is that? Why can't we pressurize Narendra Modi ji or Amit Shah ji like that?
Actually, you have a very good point, and that's what I was also hinting that people can insist that the prime minister come and address a press conference where he can take questions from each and every one, not a one-way, carefully managed, carefully choreographed show. See, the last couple of years have been a little bit different for the whole world because of the pandemic. Movement has been restricted, and that has allowed many governments in power to kind of go beyond, paint outside the lines, if you will. But the core question remains that the BJP run governments have not been so ruthless. However, I do want to point to you that the Yogi government in UP has done a fair amount of work being ruthless. Like, for example, when this guy, what's his name, SP, so Samajwadi Party, Akhilesh Yadav demitted office, the 5 years of their reign was such that no Yadav and no ROP member shall be touched for whatever they did. They had the run of the state. So what happens is when you do something like that and then somebody else is given the reins, you have to undo a lot of things before you can start moving forward. But Yogi Adityanath was fairly ruthless in that. He put down the law and order problem. He sent people to jail. In fact, the choice was for many of these cheaters, you either got encountered or you went to jail. Many tried to escape UP and hide in other states, but UP was ruthless. He managed to, strike the fear of God in the police force that they need to be doing what he told them to do. See, a lot of this stuff is not written because, again, the people who are writing are all, again, left minded people who are happy with the current state of affairs. So they're not going to write. So for that, we need to go back to look at the performance of UP, the state, because it is my belief now that if you see the next, you will see in the next few years, and I have no doubt in my mind that Yogi is coming back for another term, that UP shall become the most industrialized state, leaving Maharashtra behind. The Agadi government is really making a mess of things, and you will start seeing that many of the workforce that comprised of the actual people working in Mumbai, they will probably stay in UP and they'll actually have a better standard of living. And the industry is coming to UP, and this is a new paradigm shift that the NDA government has brought about. Nobody else did this. See, that way, Modi does something silently, and it takes some time before it starts, bearing fruit. We have to be patient, but I have looked at it very closely. I don't know, Manoj, if you would listen to. I used to have a daily program called Daily Global Insights for about 1.5 years. Now we have made it into a weekly program. But we used to go and look at many things in more detail than what you get like one-liners and headlines. And we found that in terms of execution, Uttar Pradesh government has done flawless execution in many things, whether it was the conducting of the Kumbh Mela or, making sure that the state, see, he has introduced English-based education now. In the last 4 or 5 years, Uttar Pradesh is learning English. Why do you think they are doing that? Because he wants to prep them for the next generation. For the next 10, 20 years, if India is going to be the workforce of the world, and I'm telling you, India is the ideal workforce for the world. Europe is aging, China is aging, Japan has aged, America will start aging. And in any one of these things, India and Indians are perfectly happy to not become citizens of the new country, but they just want to go on a work permit. 3 years, 4 years work permit, work there, earn the money there, and then come back and settle. You've seen that happening in Gulf. Many Indians are back now in India, and many are semi-retired, but they're well to do. My point I'm trying to make is India has the potential to be the workforce of the world. China will not be able to do it. This is not the way they have gone about under Xi Jinping. No amount of repair after that is going to help. It is my belief that India's time has come, and I believe that Uttar Pradesh, being the most populous government, has started looking at being able to create a workforce that can be employable across the world. And for that, you need English. English is the language of the world, the business language of the world. We have to admit that. So those kinds of changes have come. UP, of course, has to come from a low to, it takes time to rise. Today, it is the second fastest growing state in industrially. Again, this fact is something that people don't bring out. But I urge all my listeners to read this book called "The Monk Who Transformed Uttar Pradesh: How Yogi Adityanath Changed UP Wala Bhaiya Abuse to a Badge of Honor." It is written by Shantanu Gupta. It's a very well written book. I've read
And
it. In fact, I had
I am
hangout
so
with him
sorry,
today.
sorry to interrupt you, and I implore the. I know you won't be promoting yourself. Before reading that book, go to P Gurus and watch the program of 30 minutes conversation that Iyer sir had with Shantanu Gupta on this same book. That was yesterday.
Yes, it
I'm
came out
really
yesterday.
confused.
Yeah.
Yes. So
And
wonderful
please,
conversation. Yes, sir. Please
thank you,
go
sir.
ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. Because I did not pull any punches. I was not giving him any, short pitch balls or, long hops for him to clear the ground. It was a tough set of questions.
I know, sir. I follow you regularly, but the only problem is that you are so relentless, and your subjects are so diverse that it is very hard to follow you on all your videos.
He- Well, I'm in a bit of a hurry, Manoj, because see,
Yeah.
there's only so many productive years left in one's life, and I'm trying to make this. This is the whole goal. The goal is that concept of critical thinking, being able to take something, understand it, churn it. It'll take some time for you to understand what something is being said because you don't have the base in terms of the foundational technology in India. Why is this guy jumping from here to there? But today, Uncle Google is there to help you, hold you by the hand and take you. The point is, something attracts you, please take the plunge. Don't worry, you will find the answers. And India needs to do that.
Yes, sir, and we are thankful that you are relentless. You are an inspiration also, because and a little bit of cause of shame for us also, because. But that is okay. You are an inspiration. That is all that matters. And sir, coming back to this UP
Yeah,
situation. Recently, I hope you are aware of a controversy that Yogi Adityanath ji made a statement, and Pinarayi Vijayan immediately jumped to state that Kerala is number one. If UP becomes Kerala, people will get better education. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because of to point out the double standards and to know your thoughts on that. Because as far as I know, primary education, primary school level education, it is fine in Kerala. But for higher education, most of Kerala it goes to outside states like Karnataka. I myself was educated at Symbiosis in Pune. So, and other
Manoj,
institutes. Yeah. So,
Manoj,
yeah,
these days I live in Coimbatore whenever I come to India,
yeah,
and there is a small stretch of road between Coimbatore and Palakkad. You drive down that road, look at your left, look at your right. You will see nothing but educational institutions. And guess who is attending those educational institutions? Keralites,
yeah. Yes, and
right? And
if after education it is about jobs and industries, Pinarayi Vijayan's son himself is employed abroad, and his daughter's company is based in Karnataka, Bangalore, and yet this claim. I'm talking about the double standards. Uh,
you,
Coming back to this hijab controversy that has uh, burst out recently.
yeah,
Kerala government themselves have given a statement at the court that they cannot. There is a student police wing that is active in Kerala. They
right.
Kerala government has given a statement. They cannot in court itself, High Court, I believe. Forgive me if I'm mistaken about the court, whether it's
It
magistrate
is High
court or
Court. It is High Court. Yeah.
High Court, that they cannot allow hijab. But for the Karnataka issue, it is all like fascism is at your doorstep. These double standards, a man with a human being with minimum common sense can see that they are acting as clowns or jokers, but they're doing this unabashedly. Is there an agenda behind this? They know that their statement doesn't make any sense in the real world, but they're doing it. Is it part of a propaganda, like Sitaram Yechuri going and standing outside the closed door of Hurriyat leaders, making a fool of himself? But he doesn't mind making a fool of himself and receiving gifts from Chinese embassy directly to the party's headquarters. And at the same time, their eldest leader is refusing the second highest honor of India. These have
Yes,
become
they have not.
unabashed.
They have not really conducted themselves with glory, and it is really sad. This is what I told you, right? The compass has been lost. These guys have lost their compass. They are citizens of a country first before they can say we are the party members of this. And that Buddhadev Bhattacharya, refusing to accept that award, it was a very, magnanimous gesture on part of the government to give him that. And then he says, no, I won't take it. It is just that they want to create an issue even when there is no issue. They want to stoke a controversy because they are seeing that they are becoming irrelevant in their sphere, which is politics. That is the big fear that these people have. And coming back to the hijab controversy, my recollection, Manoj, see, I grew up in Hyderabad. Okay, in Hyderabad in 60s and 70s, it still had a fair amount of the Nizam influence. Yet I have seen many of my classmates, they'll come from the old city or they'll wherever they are living. When they get into the bus that comes to the university, they'll be wearing complete burqa, complete burqa. Then they'll come into the bus and then burqa comes off. They'll carefully fold it, keep it in their bag, and they are like normal. See, you leave a girl to herself, they want to be looked at in a normal way, not in some special way. This is being forced by someone. I don't think it is the parents that are forcing it, because it is just one fine day, the girls all came appearing in hijab. So this is because somebody has an agenda. Now we are seeing that Campus Front of India is behind this, and Campus Front of India is a student wing of Popular Front of India, which is known borderline radical terrorism group. You saw the killing that happened of the RSS worker in front of his son and his wife, the way they killed him. You saw the other one that happened in Tamil Nadu, Ramalingam, where they killed him in a halal way in front of his son, bled him to death in 3 minutes. This is all being done by PFI. They were caught in a PFI office, then they take bail. See, that is the thing. The ecosystem is ready to help them. See, even the Karnataka High Court ruling that don't wear anything until we pass a final judgment, that ruling is being challenged in the Supreme Court, that this should not be applied. That means we should be given today itself. Why? Because there are elections taking place in Uttar Pradesh. And if you look at the first round of polling, the numbers of areas where the population, the minority is in a significant number, the percentage of vote has been much, much higher than the other places. So this is another complacency about the majority. We don't realize the value of our vote. No use in wringing your hands afterwards when things don't go your way. What did Dr. Sridharan do? Why did Palakkad not elect him? When you say you are literate, you are educated, but you are also fools, why are you doing this? Because the education and the literacy seems to have fallen on the wayside when you see the choice of the person that you choose to represent your constituency. So these, Keralites have to reflect. I'm a human being first. I'm an Indian next, and then I'm speaking Malayalam. Then I'm some other religion. This is the order of uh, people, humanity. Nowhere, see, you cannot go to Arabia and say, oh, I am from your stock, therefore I shall live here. No, you need a passport, and that passport says that you are a citizen of India. Without that citizenship, that passport, you cannot set foot outside the country. So the reality, you're prepared to stake that reality, yet you want to go and support something else. I mean, people have to have some basic common sense about thinking how they look at life. And this hijab controversy was mainly done, it looks like it started 6 7 months ago. They planned it very carefully, and they've just played it out now. Same 3 girls, 4 girls, everywhere you are finding out Twitter conversations where it's all copy paste, and action behavior also same. So you given money, you will find hundreds who will do whatever you want them to do. With 1.4 billion and growing at one Australia a day, India has its problems cut out. But at least let us teach our children, you have to follow this global order. You are a human being first, then you are a citizen of India because you are born there, and then you are everything else. That compass, first country, that has to be there. This, how many times do we have to say this? Every day, every time, if you can, to our children who are growing up. Because that is where the change is going to come about. The rest will follow. The parents will say, okay, well, I think they are right. The teachers have to be making sure that they follow it. I'll give you another strange example, Manoj. I was giving a video lecture to a university which is based out of Tamil Nadu, and in that lecture, the program starts with a prayer. And the prayer was very, very non-religional. It said Maitrim Bhajata, which is a song that MS Subbulakshmi sang in United Nations. So it's a peace and friendship for whole world. Now this is a Zoom conversation. I'm watching who are all there, who are attending the thing, and slowly I'm watching that members of the ROP are leaving the program. this kind of damage has come so deep. Maitri Bhajata is everyone's. Sanskrit is everybody's. How many Urdu speaking people know that the script called Kharoshti was standardized by Emperor Ashoka, 300 BCE or somewhere in that ballpark, when he was the governor of Takshashila? He standardized two scripts. Right to left was Kharoshti, left to right was Brahmi. From Brahmi came all the current scripts: Devanagari, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam. In fact, Malayalam is called Sutrazittu in Tamil. I don't know how that Sutrazittu, it means like circular script. And
We
even
call it
all,
Churukkaluthu, sir. Short script.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So this thing is, we need to understand. It doesn't matter where, even in Arabia, it was what was the Sanatanis diktat that is being used. Urdu writes from right to left. Hebrew written from right to left. I mean, so we need to know. You have to know your history. What was the reason for these boys and girls of Religion of Peace to leave that program? In fact, I don't think they came back to listen to the lecture, which was a very important, very germane, very necessary topic to understand. It was about cryptocurrencies. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of mud in people's brains, and that needs to be taken out. And this is ignorance, this is bigotry, this is stupid demagoguery that some people are indulging in. And Manoj, I have stopped watching Indian channels on TV. It is just pathetic. I can find the same value in a quarter of the time or a fraction of the time by going and following things in social media. It's not that I only look at one particular ideology, I look at all the ideologies. There are people who can reason properly. That's what I look for. So this is the state of affairs today, Manoj.
Yes, sir, you're absolutely right. And that brings me to my next question because you spoke about your experience while giving a lecture in the university, Tamil Nadu based university. And then the members of peaceful community leaving while this so generic prayer was being
Yeah.
recited. And adding to that, recently Rahul Gandhi came out with a statement on this hijab controversy saying that Ma Saraswati does not differentiate in providing education. But has there at any point of time a debate on whether this hijab wanting people would at least acknowledge Ma Saraswati?
Yeah,
You see
see
where I'm
the
coming from, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Listen, one of my best guests was Professor Muhammad, KK Muhammad, who deposed, who discovered that the existence of Hindu temple underneath the Babri Masjid, and who has also restored Bateshwar complex of temples. There are about He has restored about 90 temples. Another 250 have to be restored. COVID hit, and also there were some funding challenges. He's got the funding, I believe, now, but he has to go back and start work again. And you know how he explained to me, this was a two-part conversation we had on P Gurus, and he said that when he first went there, all he saw was a rubble. He didn't even know what the deity was, what the murti was. He didn't know where to begin because this complex was flattened by earthquake. And he said that I had a dream. Lord Shiva came in my dream and said that I am sitting here, look for the Nandi. The next day he gets up, he goes to that rubble, he knows exactly where to go, and then he finds a small Nandi about, I think, a foot wide. Nandi is a big creature, right? Just a 1 foot wide Nandi. And it is still intact and is facing a certain direction. And that is how he started rebuilding that Bateshwar complex. Today it's beautiful, 90 temples restored brick by brick, brick by brick. My thing is, we have Abdul Kalam, we have this person, we have Yesudas. We all are Sanatanis. This thing has to be drilled down. You are, again, like in this order that I mentioned. You are a Sanatani first. If you're born in Bharatavarsha, you are a Sanatani. You may be professing a different religion, but your dharma is Sanatani. You are a member of Sanatana Dharma. These are two different things. We are not Hindus. Hindus is a thing that was given to us because people who are living on the seven rivers in Punjab, they were called Sapta Sindhu. Sindhu also means river in Sanskrit. the Sapta Sindhu, I'm including Saraswati and its tributaries, and the traders from the west couldn't say Sa, so it became Hindu or Hindus. And even in China, they refer to Indians as Hindu Go from Hindu Rashtra. So this is not something that we call ourselves as. We shouldn't be calling ourselves Hindus. We should be calling ourselves Sanatanis. What is Sanatana Dharma? Sanatana means eternal. Dharma, in this case, is Dharma has many meanings. It can be way of life. It can also call it Dharayati iti Dharma. That means one that flows, the eternal flow of life. So this is what we have. We don't have any gods. In fact, the whole multiple god system that came in India, the way I understand it, is because original God was identified as what is called as Parabrahman, and Parabrahman did not have a face or a shape. So it is difficult for many to visualize what it was that was God. So that is why they said that, okay, let us have polymorphism. We'll have different gods, and that's how this whole thing started. This is explained in Adi Shankara's works. Again, a man from Kerala. See, this is the best part. I see the extreme viewpoints from Kerala. I also see the best, crucible of Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma also exists in Kerala. You have the problem, you have the solution too. You have to find out what is to be done first.
Yes, sir. But the thing is, when you are talking about Parabrahma, and interestingly, you spoke about how you're a human being first, Bharatiya next, then Telugu speaking, so on and so forth. But that kind of ideology in this age of misinformation, doesn't it have a ring of danger to it? Because the reason I'm talking here, when you are propagating the idea of Parabrahma, immediately the jihadists will jump with the conclusion or a drawn conclusion of Allah being that Parabrahma. Or when we are talking about being a human being first, immediately the miscreants like Omar Khalid of JNU and others will come up with the idea like human beings without borders, and of course the left will jump into the bandwagon. Isn't there a danger for that? How do we tackle that, those kind of dangers of
So
this being
my understanding of Sanatana Dharma is still kind of not full depth. I have only gone in a little bit. I'm only as smart as the guests that come and talk to me on the show tell me. But I can tell you one thing, that underlying all these religions, the Sanatana Dharma never went away. It's the question is that even as they are saying all these things, that this is not right, they are again agreeing with you that there is God. You have to remember that there was a conference of religions, and Hinduism was represented by Swami Dayananda Saraswati. And everybody outside of Hinduism, Buddhists, I don't know what stand they took, they wanted to have, how these conferences have a resolution at the end of the conference. 3 days later, we have come up with this resolution. Resolution was tending towards one line. That line was, there is one God. They wanted to corner Hindus. They wanted to say, you guys have more than one God. But they wanted to force Hindus to accept that there is only one God, right? So Swami Dayananda Saraswati thought about it, and then he finally came up with a solution. He just changed one word in that resolution. Anyone wants to guess what that word was?
no, sir. I wouldn't dare to guess about something that someone like him did.
So what he said was, there is only God. And
Ah,
everybody accepted that.
fantastic.
We have to know what our adhikaris, our heads did to save ourselves. And they have laid down the path. My problem is, your problem, my problem, everyone's problem is, we are all used to this 140 character, 280 character soundbite thing these days. We just want something, everything in a capsule form. Then we can go on to the next thing. But there are some things like religion that you cannot, give it that short, sweet treatment. You have to go to the bottom, you have to go to the basics, and you have to understand how this evolved over time. I mean, I'll tell you, you can use the Kharoshti argument, Kharoshti and Brahmi argument. Nobody will deny that. It is all there. It is written in books. There are books by Dr. Nagaswamy that has pictures of all these things. Same thing, you can make arguments about swastika. Swastika is su asti, that means well-being. And the way that figure is drawn is, if you look at night, lying in the roof of your house and look up at the stars, you will see the seven-star constellation, seven stars, very bright.
Yes, sir.
This seven stars, if you look at it, they go in 90 degrees in a year. So if you draw the locus, that is the shape of swastika. Nothing else. So this is all they are representing. Whereas what happens? Oh, Hitler, Nazi, this, that. That's what is. In fact, he did not use swastika. He used what is called as hook and cross, to the hooked cross, which was a symbol of Christianity. But somewhere people are not able to say this is what this is. The swastika means su asti, good, well-being. That is what it is. So don't confuse. Hitler got it wrong, and this is what it means in Sanatana Dharma. There are coins issued by Bactrian kings, 1200 BCE, and on one side it is written in Brahmi, on the other side it is written in Greek alphabet. And these coins are in every museum in the world. Nobody wants to go and take a look at these things. Everybody wants to deal with the superfluousness, saying that, oh, Hitler adopted swastika, you guys are also using swastika, therefore you are racist. Therefore, you are like, you are like Nazis. So this kind of parallels that are being drawn, you need a little bit of grounding in Sanatana Dharma before you can take people on. I'm hoping that those of you who listen to this at least start using some of these arguments in your water cooler conversations, coffee room conversations, dinner table conversations, because we need to know what we are. And once we know what we are, the others will also see, after all, any Muslim or Christian in India, they're only 400, 500 years old. Before that, what were they? What were their forefathers? Why are they so apologetic about accepting who their forefathers was? Why don't we turn the tables on them? Who were you? What was your grandfather's name? I believe the great grandfather of Owaisi was a Brahmin. Why doesn't anybody take that guy on and say, do the research on the genealogy and say, this was the guy who converted to Islam? So same is the case with Farooq Abdullah. So the truth is there. We have to take that little extra step to establish this. Once you do that, they will start realizing that they don't have any more room for trying to be one up on us.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And coming back to the communist ecosystem in the
Yes.
country, not just the communist ecosystem. When I'm saying communist ecosystem in the country, I'm taking in all the Dravidian, so-called Dravidian perpetuating parties and everything. As you said earlier, uh, one thing dies down, another thing comes up. And soon, the north and south divide is going to come up very strongly. That is what I feel, because the Dravidian nation, Stalin has already started perpetuating it. And obviously, having nowhere else to go, Pinarayi Vijayan and his Communist Party, right now, even if Sitaram Yechuri is the All Indian General Secretary, it is under the control of Pinarayi Vijayan. It's a well known fact. Pinarayi Vijayan will follow the suit and support Stalin. That kind of divisive politics. The Communist Party, which at first wanted a proletarian state, won through armed struggle. They have shifted their focus into this. What is their end goal of this divisive forces, according to you?
See, what has happened is more or less the North has sort of solidified itself behind national parties, right? Whether it is Congress or BJP, it is one or the other. You take a look at, set aside UP for the time being. You look at other states, Congress has a role to play, whether it is Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan or Chhattisgarh or Jharkhand or Maharashtra or Gujarat. So that is six big states. Now, in the south, the regional satraps are still reigning supreme. In fact, I can tell you the kind of loot that is going on in these states now, grabbing land, grabbing anything and everything, trying to make money off of anything and everything. In fact, I have a suspicion that Pinarayi Vijayan could be joining the elite club of F20, which is the 20 families of regional parties. He may be the 21st. And in fact, his son-in-law may be the next chief minister. And then in Kerala will be officially the Islamic State of Kerala. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, sir. That is the way we are headed. But the only thing that is stopping them is they are part of the quasi-federal system, and the central has still a hold on that. But they are trying to minimize that hold through various tactics. And for the land grabbing situation, what you said is absolutely right, and it is happening in broad daylight in Kerala through that K-rail system. You have seen
Yes,
that.
yes,
You are
yes,
aware of
yes,
that, right?
yes,
And
yes, yes,
it
yes,
is not the government officials, it is not the police, it is the communist goons who are
yes.
kicking upon the doors of people's houses and planting the milestones there or the
True.
markers there. So that is what is happening in broad daylight. And as I said, they're unabashedly doing it. And in the open. We are going to do this. What are you going to do? So this sort of
Right.
challenges. Forget the central government for a moment. How do we face it? How do we tackle this? Any
You know,
thoughts on
absolutely, absolutely. See, there are many of us who are healthy, but we are taken voluntary retirement. We are not getting, we don't have to, be part of like for example, there are many government officials who have taken voluntary retirement, 50s and 60s, they're still quite healthy. They just need to get that inertia out and use WhatsApp, use social media messaging saying that here, this temple is being destroyed. Let us gather. Even if 200 people, 300 people start gathering and start shouting slogans, this will slow them down. You think Stalin doesn't know what kind of damage he's wreaking on the society? 210 plus temples destroyed. How long is it before other states are going to do it? Chandrababu Naidu destroyed 150 temples in just the city of Vijayawada, and he basically told anybody who opposes or complains about this will be killed. This was few years ago, and that rascal still goes around. Now you also take a look at Mr. M.K. Stalin. Did you know that he had a special puja performed in the Ugra Narasimha temple in Kerala, where the temple elephant goes around the complex for about 9,000 rupees or something?
Yes, sir. I'm aware of that.
And and that particular puja was done for people who are suffering from life threatening diseases, for them to have long life. What is he hinting? People say that he needs to have a blood transfusion periodically. In fact, his brother got ostracized by his father because he said this. Why are you trying to make him your political successor? He's not going to live long. Iyer got banished from the family because of that. And Stalin is the wrong role model. The guy says English தெரியாது போடா. How is he going to converse with the other Dravidian states? He doesn't want to learn Hindi. He doesn't. He says I don't know English. Sign language. Is that how India will be run? South India will be run? So this is all bekar, and I can tell you a lot of other stuff is happening in Tamil Nadu. I will not be surprised at all if the state government gets dismissed again by the Modi government. They are headed towards that. I think, in fact, Pinarayi Vijayan should have been dismissed a long time ago in the previous term itself for all the things that happened. Somehow, Modi ji is not having that nerve to go and do that one thing that is needed. Whether it is Mamta government after the May 5th violence that happened. Only now CBI has charged sheeted one person. Manoj, there were three women that came on live hangout and tell me what happened. They even named the bloody guy who threatened them. These are areas where Hindus are 30% and they are feeling scared. What they want to do is they want to grab the land without even doing anything. They just say, you leave your women behind. Men don't come back. And this is all happening under Mamta Didi's government. So there are 3 or 4 states that definitely need to be dismissed, and until things are set, and a lot of bureaucracy has to be also sent home. There is a rule called 56J. You can dismiss IAS officers and IPS officers and deny them all pension benefits. There's nothing they can do. They can go and stand in the courts for all day long. They will not get any justice. The only problem is Modi government has done this on honest officials, not on the dishonest bastards.
Yes, sir. Sometimes I also observed that, but the reluctance in dismissing governments and punishing the corrupt IAS officers. Being someone closely associated with RSS, I have a feeling. I would love to know your thoughts on that. I have a feeling that people like Narendra Modi ji and likes even Subramania Swami ji, for that matter, they have suffered through the dark era of emergency, and these kind of actions were prevalent during those time. I think Subramania Swami has come out of that softness easily. But do you think the softness or while dealing with such rogue governments from Narendra Modi's part is because of that, or partially because of that? What is your take on that?
See, I've heard people say when he is confronted with a direct question, why have you not done this? Why have you not done this? Modi ji is supposed to have answered, kuch majburiyan hai. You understand that word?
Yes.
There are some compulsions.
Yes.
So, well, I'm hoping and praying that Yogi Adityanath ji doesn't have such compulsions.
I don't think he has. But as a chief minister, Narendra Modi also had lesser limitations, right? Right. But when it comes
Correct,
to
correct.
the post of a prime minister, things are different, I believe. But that brings me to an interesting question, not directly related to the topic, but definitely related to your Who series. In the first Modi government, the influence of Maida Damodaran was very clear through that one person. What
Yes.
sort of influence is there in the second term Modi government,
Same
according to
person,
you?
same person, same set of rascals are still in power. I wrote an article 2 days ago
Yeah.
about how the steel frame of India is being dismantled from within. These
Yes.
these guys just don't go with. The more corrupt the Babu is, the more he wants to get an after retirement posting. I've named 5 people. Some of them were even heads of SEBI, and they were secretary level people. All of them rank one rascals.
Yeah. Understood, sir. But and talking about Babus, let's go one step further to the
Yeah.
judiciary. The Chief Justice of India is going to a function honoring someone like Danish Siddiqui and openly declaring that he had got a pair of he had a pair of magic eyes without any consequences. Why is that? Is it the failure of our system?
Sometimes we have to look at it a little bit more carefully. I don't know if it is the present CJA or somebody previously who did this. Can you give me a little bit
Ramanathan.
of context? Ramana did that. See, see, sometimes even justices, sometimes they are not very clear in what their compass should be. See, again, I have to go back and apply the same thing that I said, right? And when it comes to religion, I may not be putting my religion in my judgments, but personally, internally, I'll be following that. To say something else for some other religion, unless they know those as facts, they shouldn't be saying that. You can say Sarva Dharma Samabhava. Beyond that, as a person, if I was the CJI, I would limit it to that. I wouldn't go beyond that, because unless I have like first-hand experience, or like for example, I have a family which has multiple religious members and so on and so forth. Again, we have to see whether he gave that speech in his personal capacity, or whether because he was the Chief Justice of India, who was the invitee there, guest of honor.
He was there as a guest of honor. I don't remember correctly what was his portfolio on that dais exactly, but
Hmm.
he was the
Hmm.
chief guest
Hmm.
of that, honoring Danish
Hmm.
Siddiqui.
Well, again, we are in this rocket society. Sometimes people may have not done their homework fully before they go for speeches. I don't know. I'm speechless, Manoj. It doesn't seem right. At least from the first looks at it, it doesn't seem right. But who am I?
Mhm. Exactly, sir. But it is people like you, and through you, people like us that I feel should react to such situations. But again, we are wandering away from our topic. So, to bring us both back into the topic, I have one last question from the moderators panel. Then, with your permission, we'll take a couple of
Sure,
audience
sure,
questions.
sure.
And the last question is now earlier the USSR backed, now the Chinese backed communist government has literally destroyed the economy of Kerala. The treasury, state treasury is empty. We are living on loans. So, how do we correct this situation? How do we propose an alternate to this, to the common public?
Very good question, Manoj. The challenge is not limited to Kerala. Many states are running in huge deficits, and again, the center needs to assert itself in a certain way. They say you can't just keep on drawing down from the central treasury as loans, whose interest even you can't pay. Forget about the principal. Right. So this what happens is, especially in an opposition government, if Modi ji says that, they'll be up in arms saying that, oh, you are doing, no, this is all, you are stifling democracy, you are, victimizing us, you are, blah, 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 this and that. So what he has done, even though he opposed GST as a chief minister, he adopted GST completely. You know why? Because now the fangs of the state governments have been completely taken out. They can't arbitrarily impose any taxes on people, right? GST tells you what kind of taxes you can impose. Of course, you can make the argument that booze, liquor, and petrol are still not under GST, but it will come under GST. He's already started putting indirect pressure by making center lower the prices as well as making the BJP run states lower their prices. That way, people in Kerala will ask, if that guy has lowered the price, why are you not lowering the price? Right? So these are indirect ways in which discipline, fiscal discipline, is being brought to bear on all the states. And believe me when I say this, it will happen. The side by side, one thing that he should have done, again, India is always reacting. They don't think forward. I had prayed this 3, 4 years ago and then I stopped it. See, we need to start putting the technology of blockchain, which is the underpinning of Bitcoin. The blockchain technology needs to be put to monitor many things, such as land ownership, such as how money comes from outside of India into India, to keep tracking that, and a few things like that. First, you start with those things, then you can apply it for other things also. If you do that, then what happens is a lot of this land grab and see the DMK government during the 2011 to 2016 squarely targeted NRIs who happen to have lands in India or properties in India. The father was either too old or going gone. The children were all settled abroad, and they would go and target these people. They'll say this is worth 1 crore. They won't say that. They'll say we'll give you 25 lakhs. If you say no, we will grab it. We'll just change the land registry records. That is the brazenness to which the DMK government went. That was one of the main reasons why Jayalalitha came back in 2011 and she stayed on in 2016, because people were fed up. They were hit. They were getting hit in their bellies. Real estate was something that you could relatively easily sell to make money, and there the government was saying, I need a cut. You have to give me so much percentage just for your deal to go through. But the overall, the center has to do something for the whole country. So GST is a good step, even though Dr. Swami, my mentor, doesn't agree with that. I say GST is a good step because it sort of forces everybody. The second thing that Modi should have done, which he is not still done, is to abolish personal income tax and just go by consumption tax, which is, you have to adjust the GST numbers a little bit. so that you buy a house, you pay GST on that, but you don't pay any taxes on your income. It is not fair when half the country who claim to be agriculturists are not asked to pay any taxes, whereas the salaried class is forced to pay taxes. That's not fair. And very flippantly, the current finance minister, after her budget speech, says, "What have you done for middle class?" She says, "Well, we haven't raised taxes." I'm reminded of what Kamala Harris said when she was asked, "You have been responsible for the border problem. When are you going to go to the border?" She never went to the border. You know how she answered that question? She said, "I have also not been to Europe." I mean, answers, you are in a position of power. You have to be responsible with your answers. I am telling you that one answer is probably doomed her presidency. Anyway, long story short, I think there are steps being taken. The vices are being tightened, which is why you have these hijab controversies and other things. While there is still life left, the croak of the frog before it dies, it is croaking very, very loudly. I believe that is what is happening.
Uh, Yes, sir. But before going to the next question, I'm like, people are saying that I'm like a person in front of a Kerala Sadhya. So I'm being greedy. So one last question, asking for forgiveness. You spoke about Kamala Harris, and you said that one wrong uh, answer or one wrong word would end a presidency. But you also spoke about the involvement of China in the 2020 election, US elections, right?
Yes,
But at this point, USA has also gotten to that level of brazenness. I'm talking about the left politicians. That the president of United States openly calls a journalist a stupid SOB and
yes,
gets away
yes.
with it, right?
Well,
So, what is the
yeah,
paradigm shift that happened there?
so he admonishes in public and apologizes in private. He called him up and said, "I'm sorry for what I said." And again, the admonition comes in bold front page print. The apology comes tucked away in the corner of a newspaper, right? This is what happens. What is happening is, this is again, you tells you that it is not Biden who's calling the shots in the United States. Many say that it is Mr. Obama who's still running this government. He is like, just like Sonia Gandhi was doing in India, it is Obama who's running this government, and he's using this person called Susan Rice, who is in the White House. But if you ask what she is doing, there are not many clear definitions, and it is believed that many of Biden's decisions are being overturned by Susan Rice, and then that's what goes out as the thing, which is why you see sometimes 180-degree flip-flops this way or that way. So many people are now beginning to say this. Republicans are saying this. This messaging, people are not believing it. But slowly but steadily, when you start putting the body of evidence, in fact, I would also recommend all our listeners to read a new book by Peter Schweizer called Red Handed: How China Controls US through a handful of politicians, technologists, and industrialists. And it's a very damning thing. It's the first episode of this is going to air most likely tomorrow, if not tomorrow, most likely on Monday. I'll make sure. I'm doing a series of hangouts with a 30-year journalist experience based in the Washington D.C. Her name is Sasha Gong. She's Chinese born. She went through very, very hard uh, childhood. Then she came to the United States. She's got a PhD from Harvard, and she's now a journalist. And she's going to start. We're going to start first with Biden's corruption. So this is not for long, Manoj. You gave me a chance to reveal to our listeners what is coming down the pipeline. P Gurus is going through a phase where we now are being heard not just in India but also in the West, UK, US, Canada. You take it. I mean, because we stand for truth. I have nothing to gain by lying. Nobody is giving me any money. People can see that again and again we are making do with a very limited amount of resources. And I'm happy doing that because at the end of the day, I get a good night's sleep. I have nothing against anyone, but wherever there is injustice, I will point that out.
Yes, sir. I had a feeling recently watching the recent videos in Piguru. I had a feeling that is why I took the liberty of being bold and saying that Piguru spans across the spectrum and explores the detail of lot of corruption that has uh, engulfed Bharat and across the world. That is why I included that. Piguru, that's a very good direction that Piguru is taking, sir. And
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for that. And now, with your permission, we will take a few. We'll take few
Yes,
audience questions.
yes, yes.
All right, all right. So, audience, we are going to turn on the hand rise. Please come up and wait for your turn until moderator calls your name. Until then, keep your mic muted, please. That's a request. We are opening the hand rise for everyone. I think there is some technical issue with the hand rising, sir. Until it
Okay.
gets corrected, we are trying to fix that. Until
Sure,
then,
sure, sure, sure.
uh, I will engage you again. More power to me, more so that I can ask questions. All right. I think it's getting fixed gradually, but not for everyone. So before we go into the audience question, one last question, since I said that I'll engage you for that. This communist government with the uh, we know the interest of Chinese lovers in India towards that country, China. What is China's interest towards their illicit lovers in India? Are they utilizing them to the full extent, or are they engaging them to the full extent? What is the
Uh,
dynamics there?
Manoj, China is enjoying its best return on investment on its Indian poodles. Think about it. They had to spend billions of dollars to acquire 99-year lease on Hambantota. They are spending billions to just lay down a road for which they don't even know whether the return on investment is going to happen in Pakistan or not. Whereas in India, you have willingly people for small pieces of silver, they're willing to sell their motherland down the river. So this is the best return on investment. And China doesn't want India to become strong because it knows whatever China can do, India can do, and perhaps India can do it better. See, India has a much better entrepreneurship in its genes. It can be done. Unfortunately, the socialist mindset has prevented and put shackles. Manoj, I'll be so bold to say one thing that Modi can do is to dismiss half the bureaucrats, half of them. You don't need, you can dismiss 8, 9 ministries. You just need 4 ministries, Manoj. Defense, external affairs, finance, and home. That's it. You don't need anything else. So these are all just, hangovers from a previous era where people felt that I'm having a Lal Batti car. That means I'm an important person. In fact, Modi has already shown many ministers their place. Nobody has any decision making power. Everything is being done from PMO. So India is one of the best ROI for Chinese until Indians realize. Then I expect, like, what happened with Rana Ayub, right? Caught with her hand in the cookie jar. You think that the journalists in Kerala are pure as driven snow? No, everybody will, their day will come. They will be also caught. Unfortunately, one other thing that the Modi government doesn't do is to take it to the logical conclusion. They don't send them to jail. Their best achievement is sending Chidambaram to jail for 106 days. And that too after how much pressure by Dr. Swami. So the long and short of it is government, maybe it has many other problems. That's why they say, okay, let these things be like festering wounds. Neither the other side can get out of it, nor I can finish it. Because once you finish it, then people say, what next? Right? Whereas you can keep on talking about corruption, talking about corruption, and whenever you are put on the spot, say, oh well, the courts are doing their job. So this is one of those things. A lot is wrong with India. A lot is wrong with India. I believe personally Modi has corrected a few. Long way to go. Like Jan Dhan Yojana being encouraging people to do online buying on the UPI using barcode, QR code for, sorry, in shops, those has helped because the transaction is getting recorded. People can't say that, oh, I never. India had a thriving black market economy, right? That is taking a big chunk out of it. So those are all good things. You have to give it some more time. 1.4 billion is not going to move in the way you want them to move overnight.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we move to the audience question. I think the hand raising problem is being sorted out. Sharat Chandran, your question, please. Sharat Chandran?
Hello,
Yes, you're
hello,
audible. Go ahead, go ahead.
Manoj.
Yes, Sharat Chandran, you're audible.
I'm a Malayali. And you know Malayalam?
Uh,
Um, slowly speak. I usually understand, but go ahead. I'll try.
yeah.
No, 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 no. Sorry, sir. No, not about you. And Manoj.
Yeah, I do know Malayalam. I'm from Kerala only, Trivandrum. I hail from Trivandrum, Sharat.
Okay.
Correct.
Um. And what about other people's?
In the
He can.
moderators, yes, but our guest is not a Malayali, but he can understand Malayalam if you speak slowly. That is,
Okay,
പതുക്കെ
okay.
സംസാരിച്ചാൽ പുള്ളിക്ക് മനസ്സിലാവും.
അപ്പം മനോജിന് മലയാളം അറിയാം.
നല്ലതുപോലെ അറിയാം.
അറിയാം. ഓക്കെ. അത് ഞാൻ ഒന്ന് പറഞ്ഞല്ല. ഞാനിപ്പം ഇല്ല, ഞാൻ പിന്നീട് സംസാരിക്കാം. ബാക്കിയുള്ളവർക്ക് അവസരം കൊടുക്കും. ഞാൻ പിന്നീട് സംസാരിക്കാം.
All right. So we'll come back, circle back to Sharat Chandran. Emperor.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
perfectly.
Thank you so much, Sri Iyer ji, and it was a pleasure listening to you once again. Of course, I had been to your platform a couple of times, and in fact, you were mentioned regarding our PM's Yojana programs. What is your evaluation? Do you think that that is effective by giving it directly as cash into the accounts of the people? Uh, will it benefit them in that way? And what is your opinion regarding giving cash into someone's account? Do you think the purpose will be met for the very because it is all given for a certain purpose? When you give money directly into someone's account, what is your comment and view on that? I would like to know about that.
Emperor, you have actually touched upon something that is very close to my heart. Unfortunately, India is again a country that can't move quickly enough. In 2014, we did not have all booths with EVM machines with print attached terminal. In 2019, we did. In 2019, everybody got to see what their vote was as it fell, the slip fell through. So it takes time to do it. What would have been nice, Emperor, was if the money that was being given had a certain mandate that you shall spend, say, let's say 6,000 rupees was given to every individual. It could have been mandated that you can spend 2,000 for rations, 2,000 for clothes or something like that, so that you can direct the expenditure to a sector that needs that money, and that is something that makes sense to you. So what the Modi government did, and see, we are middle class, we don't see this thing much, but you have to look at the lowest strata of the society, and this is where Yogi Adityanath did a fantastic job. During the COVID lockdowns, he made sure that rations went to each and every house. They were delivered, and the quality was pretty good, I heard. It wasn't like, the cast off FCI stock that has rodents infesting on it. No, not nothing. The quality was pretty good. And he did that for, I think, 12 months or 15 months. Free rations for many people. So he did not give money. He gave rice, he gave wheat, he gave pulses, things that don't degrade right away. But to the large extent, he tried to make sure that people had to consume it. It's a different matter if they try to sell it outside in an outside market. But by and large, he has done some good things. Giving some money, I think for farmers, he's giving some money. It would have been nice if these monies were put on a blockchain so that they could direct it saying that, okay, you get 6,000, you pay 2,000 towards fertilizer. I'm just giving some numbers. It may be ridiculous. 2,000 for fertilizers, 2,000 for seeds, 2,000 for labor. Because you're an agriculturist, you need to do all these things. And if it was on a blockchain, you could monitor the feedback because the blockchain could include the fertilizer companies approved. So you can see that Manoj Sharma, the farmer, took 6,000 rupees loan on this date. 2,000 rupees was spent towards fertilizer on this XYZ company, because the blockchain will follow that. That way, you are taking full advantage of the intention of the money, right? Because the intention is not to throw it on liquor and useless stuff. So this could have been done. Unfortunately, they didn't do it, and it's not easy to do it. I've talked to many big banks in India, and the problem is you have generalists running specific technical organizations. You have an IAS officer running SEBI. You have an IAS officer running State Bank of India.
That's really
That is
eye
the
opener.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. As you mentioned, what has to go in as a substance, as Yogi did, it has to go in the substance format, not in the cash format. And
Right.
what you have suggested, the blockchain is highly effective. I think we should implement that technology so that the money will be spent for the very purpose for which it has been
It was
given
it.
to a person.
Yes.
Very good,
Yes.
very
Yes.
good. I rest my case. Thank you for your reply. Thank you, Sri.
Thank you, Abroad. Thank you, Iyer sir. Rahulji, hope I am audible.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
you are.
Yes.
You are. Go ahead.
First of all, thank you, moderators of Pathrika, for letting me speak in this panel. Good evening, Sri Iyer, sir. So, my question to you is, I am expecting that you may answer this, or maybe you can. You don't know about the history of Kerala. I hope so. I expect that you will answer it. So, my question to you is, why Kerala had the first elected communist government in the entire world? And sub-question to that, why Kerala is still have a communist bar Congress Congress government till now, and why Kerala people are still loving communist bar Congress governments? Thank you. What is your say on that? That is what my
Uh,
question is. Thank you.
Thank you, Praful. Thank you, Praful. Yeah, I can answer this question. We have to go back to that era, in the 1950s. See, Gandhiji had one good idea, and I believe that that was the reason why his life was snatched. What he wanted to do was, on the 30th of January, he released a story in Harijan. I think it got published, if I'm not wrong, 2nd or 3rd of February. But by the time Gandhiji was gone, what he wanted was that the Congress be dissolved and two political parties, one led by Sardar Patel and the other led by Pandit Nehru, be allowed to contest the first elections, because the constitution was being written by the Legislative Assembly. It would have been ready by 1950. The elections would be called after that. So that would give them 3 or 4 years to sort of have two parties. So the two-party system could be ushered into India. Now, I have spoken to the last personal secretary of Mahatma Gandhi, who passed away recently. His name is Kalyanam. And we have 3 or 4 hangouts on P Gurus about him. So you can take a look at that. And in one of the things we talked about it, I don't know if it was still put on there or if I took it out. I can share this thing. So 1 week before the actual assassination, there was a bomb thrown in the premises. A guy called Madanlal Pawa was caught. Right. So after that was done and normalcy was restored, Sardar Patel goes to talk to Mahatma Gandhi, and he says, Mahatma ji, you are addressing people every day, and what we need to make sure is that anyone who's attending, we need to go through their bags so that nobody is bringing in a bomb or a pistol. And Gandhiji would have none of it. He threw a fit. He said he will go on a fast just for this. For 2-3 hours, this is Kalyanam was the eyewitness to this. They argued back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And Gandhiji had this astra. Vallabhbhai, you are not the Sardar I used to know. He used to use it on everyone. When they wouldn't listen to him and they would sit on their stand, he wouldn't listen to them. And Sardar Patel was really angry at that point. And he stood up and he walked away. And this was, I think, 26th or something like that, 4 or 5 days before the assassination. He started walking away, and Kalyanam was accompanying Sardar Patel till the car. And Patel said, Buddha pagal hai. This is exactly the words he said. So they did not do the checking. They did not add a single police constable to make sure that these gatherings went off peacefully. Imagine if Gandhiji had the moral power to make Jawaharlal Nehru to heed to him, saying that yes, we'll have two parties. If he had two parties at the first elections itself, do you think India would be what it is today? Why I'm saying all this is because there was only one party, and Kerala had a very high percentage of literacy thanks to the Kingdom of Travancore. They did a lot of work to make sure that everybody got good education. They perhaps were looking for an alternative. They didn't like what they saw about the Congress. You have to realize that Travancore Kingdom wanted to go independent. And they tried their level best to be that. And at some point, I think Sardar Patel read the Riot Act and said that you shall join or else we are coming in. And already by the time the action had taken place against Hyderabad, so it's possible that the population had a certain amount of misgivings about the Congress government. And the first time they got an opportunity to vote Congress out, they might have done it. So this, I'm just giving you an example of what could be the reason. And again, you have to understand, Praful, we are a population that still vote with our heart, with our emotion. We don't vote with our head. There's a Tamil saying, சாட்சிக்காரனை விட சண்டைக்காரன் கால விழுறது மேல். That means if you are in a dispute with somebody, you are better off falling at the feet of the person with whom you are in dispute rather than trying to encourage the friend who is going to be your witness, because you never know what that guy is going to do, and he might get you into deeper trouble. Whereas if you go and agree with the guy who you are in dispute with, you'll be fine. You will at least get this suit off of your back. So these kinds of things have happened, and we don't understand what the election means. That one day, one issue, 1 week before that seems to completely affect our thought process when we are going to election. Quantitatively, nobody in India, no press society quantitatively gives a report card. This is what they set out to do. This is what they've achieved. This is the work that needs to be done. You have to be able to analyze it to that level and say that this is what this performance of this government. And in 3 or 4 election season cycles, you will have a fairly good quantitative measure of each party when it is in power. Once that becomes ones and zeros, right, it is very difficult to make people vote on emotion. They'll then vote on data. The sooner India gets that, the better the governance will be. Take it from me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Iyer sir. Tarun Nambiar. Tarunji, your question, please.
Hello, okay. I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Actually, thank you, Manoj sir, for this opportunity. Because I've not read it. Actually, I've seen one of launching ceremony of Iyer's book on demonetization. Actually, this question is regarding demonetization only. I just want to understand because I think in your you mentioned that one container has come to Cochin and it has got vanished and distributed among the minority community. Some you have given that kind of um, speech that time. I just want to understand, like, how danger, I really want to understand, like, how much money approximately did you, sir, calculated, like, how much it has been disbursed or in Cochin and also in all over India, like, because demonetization is helping a lot of terrorists and overall the growth of Indian economy. So I just want to know in brief, like, how much it has come and how much danger it has already created to Indian society.
Yeah, Tarun, one of the most important speeches during the
Yeah,
book unveiling function, unfortunately, the
yeah,
quality was poor, so we had to only
yeah.
put transcript. That was by Dr. T.P. Senkumar, who was the
Okay,
Director General of Police in Kerala for some time. He was the chief
okay,
guest. And so what we did was we did a back of the envelope calculation, mota mota, not very accurate, but close
okay.
enough.
Yeah,
So even today, this government is saying, what is it saying? That 99% of the old notes came back,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? They're saying 99% of the old notes came back. So I'll tell you one story. See, around 2006 or 2007, the number, the year is not important. Dr. T.P. Senkumar was the managing director of KSRTC, Kerala State Road Transport Corporation. No, so every day they get notes, right? That get deposited in the bank. That is the
Right.
ticket, people buying tickets and all that. So they used to come across a lot of counterfeit notes. So one day he said, I personally went to State Bank of India. He didn't know which branch. It doesn't matter. I went to the cashier and I put two notes in front of him. I said, one of them is fake, one of them is real. Can you identify it? You won't
Okay.
believe it, but the cashier pointed to the fake note and said, this is the real note. So the fake currency was so good that even banks were not able to detect the real from the fake. And India is a very compromised society. Three things that you can do to try and keep the secrecy of your banknotes. One is the paper on which you print your note. The second is the equipment that you use to print the notes. The third is the security threads that you put. You may put a silver thread, you may have a hologram, you may have a watermark, and so on and so forth. So all these things, ISI had their hands on. So they started pumping out money, which was as good or even better than the real notes. This was the problem that was facing the government of Modi government. So here is what people have told. You remember when they announced the demonetization, they said we expect only 87% of the money to come back. Correct?
Correct. Correct.
What actually happened was, again, this is something that the government will not and cannot say, 113% came back. So 26% of the money that got back into the RBI was fake currency.
Fake currency.
26% is almost 1 in 4. So now you do some back calculations. At that time, how big was India's economy in lakhs of rupees? It was around 16 lakh crores. 25% was fake or extra that we don't know where. So that is 4 lakh crores. And up until 2016, India was primarily a cash based currency system. Cash based. Everybody used notes and things like that.
True.
Now,
Yes.
there is something called as velocity of money that the RBI track. This is for every central bank, they track this velocity of money. That means how many hands does it change before the note is retired or rendered, like it goes into a vault from where it is not taken out. That number used to be 10x. So 4
Oh,
lakh crores actually has been in the system to the tune of 40 lakh crores.
oh my God.
That
Then
is
the
the
effect.
amount you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That they it might if it is with the terrorist groups or with the anti-India elements, then definitely it will be a big problem, a big challenge for the government itself, because no, they cannot even control, because they will be with every system, each and every system of India. No, sir. Then that will be a big danger for the society. I don't know how Modi
Tarun,
government is going to tackle this. Yeah.
Tarun, I urge all my listeners today to watch some of my hangouts with Sri T.G. Mohandas. I don't know, many of you may be living in Kerala. I don't know how much you know, but the port of Kochi is actually a Dubai controlled port. Out of 4 corners, only 1 corner is in control of India. And I believe in many parts of the port, even customs cannot go in. This is on Indian land.
I don't live in India, Kerala. I live in Maharashtra, Pune. I'm basically from Pune. For the last 23 years,
I
I'm in
see.
Pune only.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the reality. And
Okay.
Dr. TP Senkumar told me on that conference, it's open knowledge. He said that every usable real estate property in Kerala now is owned by members of ROP. Oceanfront, riverfront, national highway front. Along the national highway, there's only one national highway across, it just runs north and south of Kerala. And most of the property that is useful is owned by members of ROP. I'll give you another stunning facet, Tarun. 49% of Kerala is Hindus. Do you know how much they own of real estate? 17%. Do you know how much the Hindus own in terms of industries? 17%.
That is true. That may be true. Yeah, true.
See, the boom in Gulf started in 73, 74 when they could jack up the price of the petrol, right?
Correct.
Initially, maybe 1 or 2 years, ROP members were preferred. But very soon they realized that the best workforce, today you talk to any employer in Middle East, who is your best workforce? He'll say a Hindu from India. Why?
Correct. True.
He doesn't talk politics. He puts his head down. If I pay him 8 hours, he works for 12 hours. He takes his 1 month, 2 years vacation or something like that, and he's back.
True.
So
You're right.
how is it that one community has got such a lock on the property? Now they are starting to buy up properties in Tamil Nadu. They are starting to buy properties in Karnataka. They're starting to buy properties in Andhra Pradesh. So these tentacles are spreading. They're doing it very quietly, deliberately. Tarun, you got to understand, these are also Hindus at one point of time. People can plan. Everybody has brains. Not everybody talks rot nonsense. Many,
Yeah.
see, sometimes you create a noise of doing something, whereas you are quietly doing something else underhand. And there are lots of things that are going to come out. Unfortunately, my biggest disappointment with this Narendra Modi government is, in many a case, I have peeled the banana. I have taken the banana, I've identified the banana, I have peeled the banana, and I just brought it in front of the minister and said, please eat this banana. And they have not. What more can
But
I
why they
do?
are not doing? Are Gujaratis also involved in this, or Gujjus also involved in this particular fake currency racket? I felt so as well, because they might also have some sort of share in this particular racket. I felt. I don't know. Maybe probably that may be the reason. I don't know. I'm not very
Tarun,
sure.
the problem is, the thing is, somewhere, see, again, it all comes back to the same mindset thing I tell you, right?
Yeah.
I am an Indian first. If a fake currency bleeds everybody, it's not just, it doesn't bleed only Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew. It bleeds everybody. We have to be more careful about what money we are dealing with. Don't
Yeah.
take money. Don't deal with cash if you can help it. Try to use credit card. Yes, there's a small percentage that the seller has to pay, not you. So
Yes.
these are things that we have to do. We have to make this thing a normal thing. And I can tell you, if they abolish personal income tax, you can make as much money as you want, no income tax. That will open the floodgates of India like nothing else. Just the amount of money that will come will make up for the fact that you are taxing some people at a higher percentage. All that will go away.
Okay.
Needlessly, we are keeping too many IRS income tax officers. They don't need to be there. All they do is shake down and
Okay.
just harass the hell out of people.
Okay.
Uh,
Thank you, sir.
thank you, thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Taranji. Thank you, Nectar. Anil Kumar, your question, please.
Okay. I'm just wait. I was just waiting. I was a little busy actually. Okay. Iyer sir, thank you for your contribution to our society through this platform. In fact, in society means it's like our what you call this Clubhouse platform. So my question is that, especially when you touched our school curriculum, why stopping government for the new implementation or the correction of the histories? One example I can tell. Still, we are teaching IT innovation myth. And we are Indian from South. However, as per my opinion, this is unfair that still we teach AIT or AMD IT migration theory. Why we are not exploring OIT in school curriculum? So, what are the requirements for NRC? I mean school. I mean NRCTC to correct our history
Our history.
in the school text in this matter.
Anil Kumar, I understand your question. I think you meant NCERT, NCERT,
Yes,
National
NCRT.
Council for, yeah, okay.
What is the
So see,
requirement?
so Anil Kumar, the one challenge that India has is that education is a concurrent list. That means the states as well as center have a say in how to come up with the curriculum. Now, if you touch that, Tamil Nadu will be up in arms. Kerala will also be, Bengal will be, Maharashtra will be. So, unless you make this as something that the children or the parents of the children want to embrace, you won't find the solution. However, some green shoots, by the way, Anil Kumar, in Andhra Pradesh, they have taken a decision that all schools, government and private, thousands of them are going to switch over to CBSE syllabus. See, they are smart. They understand that by getting something which is standardized, that their children have a better chance at getting into colleges wherever they want to go. The Andhra Pradesh, for all its faults, has had excellent education. Their math and their science books are top of the line. You look at in the Silicon Valley, I'm telling you, Anil Kumar, there are many engineers who are all Telugu speaking. And I can tell you because I also studied in schools that some of the education that was imparted, and that was all imparted in Telugu, by the way, very high caliber. Their fundamentals are very strong. So if you have strong math and science fundamentals, you become good engineers. It's a given, right? So this kind of thing that Andhra Pradesh has decided to go with CBSE, I'm hoping that other states will follow suit.
Okay, my one clarification is that is the history also they concern the same thing, because I am
Yeah,
more
see,
bothered about history. My youngsters say,
absolutely, absolutely. CBSE syllabus syllabus is syllabus. You know, you have to teach this, and already Modi government is doing something in the background. We don't know about it, but don't worry about it. There are places like Bharat Gyan, BHARATHGYAN, Bharat Gyan. It's a website run by Hema and Damal Hari out of Chennai. They have done fantastic job of writing simple to understand history books. Nothing prevents you as a parent from telling your children, go look at these books. Or Amar Chitra Katha, they are still available. So these are all the things that we can learn our real history from. It's a different thing that when you have to go and write an exam, you may have to write on syllabus, but at least the child has a way to understand what else happened in your history. This is
okay,
changing, by the way. CBSE will
okay.
have history also. It is
So
changing.
that means we can be optimistic.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, that is good. Anyway, I have to give some compliments because normally when guest comes in our, I'm listening many clubhouse, but they come with some time frame. But you are not, you are more into that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Anil Kumar. Thank you, Iyer sir. And Iyer sir, that brings us to the conclusion of our audience panel question, and to the conclusion of our program. Before going into the conclusion, I would like to point out two things so that you can touch upon them on your conclusion speech. That is the MOU signed between Congress Party and the Chinese Communist Party back in 2008, and the level of influence China has on people like Sitaram Yechuri. Because if I understand correctly, he is a constant, only invited guest in many universities of China. So these kind of handouts and surrenders that has been happening behind the scenes, which are coming to light slowly but not fast enough. Uh, your thoughts on those areas?
Thank you, Manoj. It was a pleasure being on your platform. As far as the memorandum of understanding is concerned, my gut feeling is that they probably opened up some things For example, if you look at communications, right? The entire infrastructure that is in India now, cell towers to exchanges and a lot of those things, they're all run by either ZTE or Huawei. And then what happens is both of them are Chinese Communist Party run institutions, and they have got a lot of listening in devices, so they can listen to anybody's conversation. So essentially, you're given away the secrets of your kingdom. So whether Mr. Rahul Gandhi has the intellectual capacity to understand the import of what he is signing or not, I cannot tell. Uh, but this is I believe what happened, and it's very easy for us to say that Mr. Modi is not doing a good job. He met 18 times. What did he do? But how come India is still so dependent on China for labor for its products? Think about it. Anytime we start something, how quickly some environment or something else comes in the way and stops that progress. Take a look at Sterlite. Sterlite was making sure that India was a net copper exporter. Till date, it is still closed. It is only open to make some oxygen equipment, but I don't know if that is also now come to a close. That's made it possible for China to go and benefit from this. And now India is a net importer of copper. There is no copper facilities in India. You have to import your copper. When you got everything inside, what stopped the Modi government from reading the Riot Act to ADMK at that time? They were an alliance partner. Yeah, open it and see what happens. And if 10 people come and say, so what? Throw them in jail. So these kinds of things are, very, very sad. Gudamgulam is a nuclear power plant that has only 2 operational reactors. One of them is in trouble right now. It is not fully on. How many of you know about this? And nuclear energy is the safest, greenest way to generate power. They are supposed to have 5 reactors. And Gudamgulam faces towards Colombo, which is where they are building this artificial island from China. What are the chances that China might have sabotaged that one reactor? Why is anybody not talking about it? And this is something that makes everybody's life. You know how in 10 months of the year, South is hot. Maybe December and part of January is a little bit cool. After that, it becomes hot. We're all going to suffer because nobody is really paying attention to some of these projects that can help the whole country. I'm telling you, a lot of stuff needs to be disseminated by the media. Media can do a lot of work that is non-controversial, such as, what will it take to bring back Sterlite? What is really happening in the Gudangulam reactor? Who is that rascal who was trying to do all the agitation for Gudangulam? It was supposed to be a church-oriented, church-sponsored thing. Why don't you, once you prove it, why don't you throw them in jail? So the Rana Ayub is a beginning, but it has to be like 10, 20, 30 have to happen every day. There are many, many bandicoots in the system. They are all there. They are agitating in plain sight. So this is what the MOU was. As far as Sitaram Yechuri is concerned, I told you right in the beginning, that the leader of the Communist Party in India is chosen from China. So these are all breadcrumbs. This guy, see, right now Sitaram Yechuri is not in any gravy pipeline. The gravy pipeline for Kerala probably starts and ends with Pinarayi Vijayan and whoever he wants to keep happy in the center. He may be pointedly ignoring Sitaram Yechuri. In that case, then he needs to have some gravy pipeline too. He's living the good life. The life of a commoner, communism is all only for the consumption of the followers. Present company is always excluded. I don't know how many of you know that N. Ram and P. Chidambaram were leftists, raging communists. They used to run a newspaper called Radical Review, of which Chidambaram was the editor. And suddenly they realized that all their views and ideology is present company excluded. Neither Ram nor Chidambaram now is a communist. And these are all hypocrites of the highest order. And problem is, the Janta has gotten so much bad news from here, there, everywhere. They become numb. They've become numb to corruption. They have become numb to treachery by politicians. Somehow it is like day-to-day life itself is a struggle, especially when something like the pandemic hurts. It's really, really sad. And I'm hoping and praying that the worst is behind us and that we can live life normally. Even through this pandemic, I made 2 visits to India. It was tough. You had to do a lot more procedural stuff, but I still love India and Indians because we are simple, clean, peace-loving people. At the street level, everybody wants to be nice and helpful, and it doesn't matter which religion they belong to. Thank you.
Iyer sir, I know that I said it was going to be your conclusion, but you said Enram, and that touched a raw nerve because that is one person that I have always had issues with. Because one look at him, you know that how do you, he's drenched in luxury, and he's the frontline speaker for the downtrodden in India. That hypocrite. Expand a bit on that and his love for China. You only caused it, sir. you,
Somebody asked him if he had read NDTV Frauds, my book, and he said that is a diseased joke. The rascal didn't even have the, he's an editor. He should have at least said what was wrong about the book. I presented the book in common terms, and the second half of the book was all the facts by government documents that said what these guys did. Pranay Roy was his business partner. There was a Hindu NDTV venture for some time. So these are all, bad boys, each slap the other one's back. You will see so many conventions that Hindu has had. They've never invited me. If they felt so strongly that NDTV fraud was full of lies, why didn't Pranay Roy sue me? They could have at least invited me. I'd be happy to come and face them and answer their questions in their conferences. They won't because they know they are lying. These are liars of the highest order. The problem is nobody is punishing them for their lies. You still have the average middle-aged, middle-class person living in Chennai. They still get their Hindu delivered. They'll say this is not right. The country is going to dogs. But beyond that, they won't do something that can hurt Hindu. Why don't you stop? These days there are so many different places where you can get news. I mean, I was very disappointed when that kind of comment came from him. And when I challenged him on something else, he blocked me after that on Twitter. I said, good riddance. These are all people who are, masqueraders. They have one thing, they say one thing, they mean something else. Basically, hypocrites. They've seen how far they can go in their lives. Beyond that, they're just milking that old thing. And now he has gotten and married. I think he has married somebody from Kerala and some well-to-do person. So
Mariam
he's found
Chandi,
some
yeah.
wealth. Yeah, and I'm also hearing that he has converted too. So more power to him.
Yeah. And yes, sir, we expect you a lot more often on this dais with your permission. But one last question, sir. I promise this is the last question. With the Chinese lovers, so many Chinese lovers in India, uh, how do you see the China, Russia, and now the beggar Pakistan axis? And how does that affect India? Is Russia a trustworthy ally anymore?
Actually, something very interesting happened in the meeting that Putin and Xi had behind the front that was Olympics. They were supposed to have, Putin was supposed to have stayed for 4 days. He just came for 8 hours. And in that 8 hours, there was one marathon meeting of 4 hours with Xi Jinping. And I would urge our listeners to watch one last hangout I had with Elmer, which was basically what really got discussed in that. So what has happened is, in fact, I expect Russia to quietly, pull out from that border, and that Ukraine thing is now blown over, in my opinion. I'll tell you why. Russia has just signed a multi-year, I think, $500 billion agreement with Xi Jinping for supplying natural gas and crude to China. Now, Russia is smart. They know that they don't want to just lay the pipeline into Russia. They would like to have a way to lay the pipeline to Japan and South Korea, which are, prospering economies. So what Putin tried to do was to lay a line along the northern border of China with Russia, so that at one point he will split into two or three. One goes to South Korea, one goes to Japan, and one goes to inside China. So this made the pipeline longer, and it had to go through some cold areas, and there was a problem in delivering. Luckily, it looks like they have solved all those things, and with the China getting the gas that it needs from them, you will see that they will not be looking at Afghanistan much. They will not be looking at Pakistan much. They're just keeping it there because they think that CPEC still makes sense. The most important takeaway in that meeting was how Putin wanted to be paid. Xi Jinping wanted to pay Putin in RMB, that is the currency of China, renminbi, also called as Chinese yuan. And Putin laughed. He said, I don't trust your currency. If you're going to give me your currency, then I need something else as security. And Xi Jinping was livid. How dare you question my currency? Blah, 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 this, that, this, that. And then Xi Jinping said, okay, if you want me to take RMB, then I need some portion of your land in exchange. In case things don't go right, if RMB collapses, I'll be able to get my land, my hands on that land. And he was looking at some land south of Vladivostok. Vladivostok is the eastern seaboard corner that is very close to the border of Russia and China. Some more land in that area. And Xi Jinping was jumping up and down. How dare you are you are my supplier. I am your customer. You are telling me you don't like my currency, and then also in exchange you want me to give some of my land? How dare you? So it has become to full Ma Ban kind of stuff. Then finally they agreed that Putin will be paid in euros. So Putin didn't budge. He also said, this is the important thing for India. He said that you will not ask me to change any of my agreements with India. So Russia has quietly pulled itself out of the clutches of China that it was in. Now China has to pray that Russia's pipeline will deliver, that it will be on time, because China has learned a very bad lesson in the last few months. See, what has happened is 80% of China's water is not usable, not even for cultivation. It is that polluted. So they needed the clean burning fuel from Australia and also from Indonesia. And both those countries stopped exporting their coal. Now, China had to fall to within their own land for coal because they had to keep their plants up and running. So there was a cutoff. They announced 2-day weeks, 3-day weeks in much of China. You and I don't know about this because there is no free press. Think about living in a 50, 40-storied building and the lift not working. What will you do? So a lot of challenges going on. So finally now China has a way out of that problem, and they are also trying to get their nuclear plant up, power plant up and running. These things take a lot of time. So China has a water problem. It has an export problem because US is able to dismantle, or it is able to disentangle itself from a lot of the stuff that China used to do. I think Europe will follow suit. I think that Ukraine thing will blow over, and uh, things will start becoming more normal. But Xi Jinping's Gaddi is in trouble. And the good news for India is that whatever Russia has honored to do with India, that will continue. I believe Russia has promised S-500 first to India. And if that comes through, then you know that what I'm saying today is true.
Right. Thank you so much, Iyer sir, for that ending the session on a very wonderful and positive news. Really, that is a very optimistic news amidst all these Chinese lovers and the negativity that is going around, particularly in South India. And with that, with your permission, I will go into the conclusion of this open forum. So,
Thank you.
all right. Thank you, sir. So, to the audience, eternal vigilance. That is the price we must pay to weed out these Chinese lovers in India. Chinese lovers and the other problems that comes with it and around it. And for that, we conducted this session, and I would like to thank Mr. Sri Iyer from the bottom of my heart for this wonderful open forum session that not only exposed the Chinese lovers in India, but also touched on many other broader spectrums of subjects that concerns our motherland. And Iyer sir, we hope to have you here on Pathrika more often to discuss on all these subjects in depth. Per your time, we will be contacting you more often and we'll be bothering you. That is my end note.
No, no, it was a
So,
pleasure from my side. It was a pleasure from my side. Thank you all.
right.
Have a nice time.
Thank you so much, sir. And on that note, let us conclude tonight's session. And before we conclude, please subscribe to P Group for a more in-depth analysis on all the subjects that we discussed. Because believe me when I say in-depth, it is in-depth and precise and honest, brutally honest. So subscribe to P Group and also please subscribe to Pathrika Clubhouse and YouTube channel. And on that note, Iyer sir, with your permission, I am concluding tonight's session. Shubhratri to all. Thank you so much, Iyer sir.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.